Okay, so you want to go kayak camping. You don't want to spend a ton of money on a touring kayak. The question becomes, why can't I just use my 12-foot recreational kayak that I've already got? Why can't I? The answer is, you can, but let's talk about it. Launching from an aircraft carrier. I've already got this kayak. Why should I go out and buy a $2,000 touring kayak? I can just put all my gear right in here with me. There's tons of space, and it's easier to pack. I'll just slide it all forward. So yes, your recreational kayak is easier to pack. It's easier to load up with gear. I think that's actually, in a way, a bad thing. It is harder to pack this boat than it is a recreational kayak where you can just throw stuff in the cockpit with you, but that's giving me a tremendous boost in terms of safety. And safety is going to be something that I come back to repeatedly in this conversation because I think that it's important. The gear, when I load it in this boat, is going to be lower, closer to the waterline, in some cases below the waterline, because my butt right now is below the waterline, and it's going to be centered, so the boat is going to be easier balanced. Also, the gear is not going to move around in there when the boat is turning, or if I roll, or even just in rough seas, the gear is stable and it's not going to go anywhere. And then most importantly, if I were to wet exit my boat in bad conditions, my gear's not going anywhere. It's inside the boat, except for the couple of little things that I've got here in the cockpit with me. So that, I think, is a big advantage to paddling a touring kayak as opposed to a recreational kayak. If you do pack gear into a boat like this, make sure it's connected to the boat, because if this boat flips over, all that gear is going to come out. And even though most of it will float, particularly if it's in dry bags, you want to make sure it's not floating down a river or floating away while you're trying to gather up the boat and get things going. Another good reason that I'm not going to buy one of those is those cost way more than this does. And I've already got this boat. So this can do everything that can do, right? Yes, this touring kayak costs more than that recreational kayak, probably 3 times more. This is, I think, a $2,500 boat. I think that's an $800 boat. I'm not good at math, but that is 3 times. Huge difference, huge sort of different entry point in terms of dollars, and there's no way around that. But I'm getting an F-15 versus a Cessna 150 or 172. And with that is coming far better performance and a boat that is designed to do a specific thing. This boat is not meant for going down rivers. This boat is not meant for lazy drifting on a lake, which I could do, but it's not designed for it. This boat is designed to do a couple things. It's designed to carry a ton of gear. There are very few boats that will carry as much gear as this Delta. The seawards that they use up at Knowles are close, but the valley that I paddled with Knowles was not half the storage of this boat. That is one of the things that I love about Deltas, is just how much gear storage there is. I'm getting a boat that will hold a ton of gear. I'm getting a boat that will go fast. I'm getting a boat that will track straight and true and really just designed to go far, go fast, and carry a lot of gear doing it. And there is a safety factor there. So in a slower boat, we talk in that boat about glide and acceleration. It doesn't do either of those things as well as this boat does. And so the byproduct of that in terms of safety if weather goes bad or if conditions change negatively, it's going to take me longer, and I'm going to have to work harder in a recreational boat to get myself back to a position of safety or out of danger than it will in this boat. This boat is designed to handle bad weather and bad water and do it, moving quickly and still performing well. And that's what you're getting. That's what you're paying for. A boat designed to do a specific thing, and that specific thing is touring. I'll tell you, a big thing for me, this boat is easy to get in and out of. The cockpit is a really big opening, and it's super comfortable. So again, another reason I vote for this instead of for that. Yes, this boat is harder to get in and out of. It is a narrower boat with a significantly smaller cockpit. Again, there's a reason for that, which is this boat is designed to fit you like a glove. That boat is designed to fit you like a bucket. And sometimes a bucket is the perfect thing, but for me, paddling long distances, or anyone paddling long distances, particularly in rough water or where you want that finer control of a boat, you're getting it because you are connected to the boat. I am locked into the cockpit here, and that is meaning that my body's motions are directly transmitted to the boat instead of sliding around inside the cockpit like in the recreational kayak. And so I think that is a great thing, and absolutely worth the fact that it's a little bit harder to get into. I will say also, as a shorter paddler, I'm about 5'6.5". Getting into that boat and straddling it the way that I do is not easy, which leads you, a lot of people, to do one of two things, both of which are bad. Number one is you turn your back to the boat and sit down into it. That's a great way to get hurt because you end up falling into the boat. You end up hitting like your back on the cockpit coaming, or you fall back into the seat and break the seat. That's no good for anyone. The other thing that people do is that they put a foot into the cockpit and try to stand, which is not really a huge problem if the boat is on land. But if the boat is in the water and you try to transfer your weight to that 1 foot flat in the base of your cockpit, the boat's going to move and you're going to end up falling down and getting hurt. So both of those are bad things. I think the best way to get into a boat is straddling it, and that differs from the way the ACA teaches it, or at least the way the ACA used to teach it. The other part about design with this boat, in that it's designed to do something singular like touring, and that it's harder to get into and out of, is also going to add a safety factor in that I'm going to be drier and the boat is less likely to fill with water in bad weather. And both of those are super important in terms of safety and being able to continue paddling in bad weather, whereas that boat on a bad day is just going to fill up with water. Yes, I can put a spray skirt on that boat. They're a little hard to find. They're a little bit harder in terms of dealing with, just in terms of putting it on and off, because the cockpit is so open, and it will keep the inside of the cockpit dry. In theory, you can roll that boat. I have seen it done, but it takes a solid roll. So I like that this boat, the design of this boat, is keeping me drier, keeping me protected from the elements and bad weather. I really appreciate that. The touring kayak is way tippier. It's so much narrower. I would just rather be in this. It's more stable, so it's safer. That's why I want this, because it's safer. Yes, my sea kayak is tippier than your recreational kayak, but again, I think that's a good thing. This one isn't for safety reasons. This is for performance reasons. So the fact that this boat is tippier makes it easier for me to do stuff like this, like edge my boat, which makes a huge difference in terms of performance. Also, the reason it's tippier is because it's significantly narrower. There are other factors that play into how tippy a boat feels, but the biggest factor is width. And this boat is significantly narrower than the Prodigy 12 I was just in, or Prodigy 120, I think it's actually called. Significantly narrower than that boat, and so it feels tippier. The secondary stability, which is how hard it is to actually roll the boat over, is still pretty high in this boat. Not as high as in the Prodigy or any recreational kayak. But the advantage of that is that I can do way more in terms of edging and turning and work with my body to affect the performance of this boat. when you think about, and I make this correlation frequently with people I'm paddling with, this is built like an F-15, and that benefit, that tippiness, or in the F-15, that inherent instability, is giving me an advantage in maneuverability, and I want that advantage in maneuverability. Yeah. Hey, if you're finding this topic fun or interesting or humorous or anything enjoyable, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. You can buy me a coffee on Coffee. There are links down below. My books to help you get started, kayaking and kayak camping and trip planning, are available on Amazon. And if you need help, if you've got a question, reach out to me. My audience is still small enough that I can answer every email, and I spend a fair amount of time answering questions for folks who are just getting started or who are having trouble with a specific skill or with their forward stroke. So feel free to hit me up with questions. I'm happy to do it, at least while the channel is small enough that I can. Back to your regularly scheduled program. So all joking aside, you can totally use a boat like this to go camping. There are obvious benefits to using a touring kayak designed for long distances, but I think it's a great idea to use the gear that you've got, at least to get started. Do it a couple times in a boat like this, and see if you like it before investing in a boat like that. For me, the hard part about a boat like this is performance. We talk about how fast is that kayak versus this kayak, and there are really three parts to that. I'm going to say there are three parts to that. First is every boat has a hull speed, how fast the hull can go physically through the water, and there's a whole big equation you can do for that, and I'm not smart enough to figure that stuff out. For me, it's acceleration and glide. And so this boat does not accelerate particularly quickly, nor glide particularly well, even in conditions like this, which are absolutely perfect. I'm literally paddling more often to keep the boat moving just because the boat is slower and doesn't have as much glide. But still, it's fun. I'm still out here having fun. This is, a perfectly nice boat. I don't really have contact with the boat. I'm sort of sliding around in here compared to my higher performance touring kayak, but I'm on the water. I'm having fun. It's a beautiful day. In that sense, there's nothing wrong with it, but there are things you need to be aware of in terms of safety. But you'll see I'm still using all of those same principles for a forward stroke, right? I'm pushing, not pulling. I've got a little torso rotation. It's not translating power to the boat quite as well because the fit isn't as tight, but still the principles are the same and I'm making the boat go. This boat has way too much seat back for me based on what I'm used to. There's just too much going on behind me, and it feels a little bit like it's getting in the way. But I'm having fun. It's a great little boat. Can't say much for this PFD. It kind of doesn't want to sit straight. This is the way they teach you how to do it in books. I'm not going to do it. See? Everything I do in my touring kayak I can do in this. I will say, man, I just grabbed that boat and a PFD and a paddle and dragged it to the water and got going. Didn't think about a spray skirt. I was in the water quick. It definitely takes a little bit longer to get this boat going. In terms of the gear that I'm going to carry, I didn't pack a paddle float and a bilge pump when I grabbed that boat because I knew I wasn't going to be out for very long, and the conditions are extremely mild, to put it lightly. But I should have. If you're paddling a boat like that and are not within sight of where you're starting, always carry a bilge pump, a paddle float. That PFD that I was wearing had a whistle right on it, which is a good thing. Mine is in here, so you should always have a whistle. So take safety precautions, but there is no reason that you can't get started in a boat like that. But I would say 2, 3, 4 trips down the road, or maybe you do your first season with a couple of trips in a boat like that. Over the winter, start researching, find a boat that sings to you and paddles like a dream, and bite the bullet and get yourself a really nice touring kayak. At REI, we used to use the Tsunami 140s, 145s, which are rotomolded plastic boats, incredibly durable, a little heavy, but perform well and are good entry-level touring kayaks. I think 14 feet is a good place to start with a touring kayak. I think 17 feet is a sweet spot, which is why you see so many boats at 17 feet. They perform really well at 17 feet. So highly recommend taking the time after your first season in a rec boat to join the ranks of people paddling boats like this. And I can still obviously paddle this boat on a lake and have fun, and that's what I do. I only own one boat, but I think it'll change your perspective to get into a boat that can really, really perform. I am accused, or have been accused in the comments, of being a boat snob, and I am a little bit. I'll own that. I really like a high-performance boat. There's just nothing like it, and I really enjoy it. And I know that people are having fun. I was having fun in that wreck boat. You saw my smiling face. I was having a blast. It was fun, but it's just so much more fun in a boat like this. Absolutely digging it, and I think you will too. So get yourself a boat. Do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. I will see you on the water.